The church is viewed as being full of hypocrites. The reality of it is, anytime that you have people, it's going to be imperfect from a relational standpoint, from an action standpoint, from times of doing something that is different from what we say we believe. We act differently. We say something differently. That's the reality of dealing with people. And so you're never going to find a church that is full of or has any one perfect person sitting in the seats, coming in and being a part of the local church. And I do think that some who grew up in church and maybe had a bad church experience, and a lot of that was due to relational issues that may have come up. I think so often the early church gets romanticized. And you look back and you think, well, you look back in Acts and there are thousands of people joining the church every day. Man, that must have been a great church. I mean, why can't we get back to being like the early church? Okay, so if we want to get back to being like the early church, let's go to 1 Corinthians. You start in chapter 5. You've got a man who is sleeping with his dad's wife, his stepmom. You've got other people in the church that are suing one another. There's open and blatant sexual immorality. There's elitism. There's classism where they're completely neglecting the needs of the poor. They're flaunting their liberties. They understand that they have liberties in Christ, and they are just going around happy-go-lucky and doing whatever they want, even if it means offending their brother or sister in Christ. Now, I don't know about you, but that doesn't sound a whole lot different than when you come into a church today. Just maybe packaged a little differently, maybe looks a little differently. But if we get caught up in looking for the perfect place to show up, then we're never going to engage, and we're never going to be a part of something that God intended for us to be a part of. Because you look at that early church, and the Apostle Paul, and he had all these churches that he went around and he started and he's ministering to and he's pouring into. And you read what they're going through in 1 Corinthians, and you see the junk that is happening with that local church. Paul doesn't walk away. Paul doesn't wipe his hands of them. Paul doesn't say, you know what, I'm leaving you guys up to your own accord. I got other things to deal with. No, he steps in and he engages. And he loves them, and he wants to guide them, and he wants to see them through. Is it perfect? No. Will it ever be? No. But it is still the hope of the world. And I believe that with all my heart. And I believe that the message of God's love and God's grace coming through the church into our world is the only chance we have of completely changing the direction of this next generation that's coming up through and will be the generation that carries the torch of our faith moving forward.